Hey guys, Boost Auto here. Today we're going to show you how to install our light up door handles, our Ion series door handles, on 2022 and newer refreshed GM 1500 and 2024 and newer 2500 and 3500 trucks. Introducing our new Ion series light up door handles by Boost Auto. We've turned the styling to 11 with our innovative design, adding a bold light strip into a sleek door handle that will surely suit your truck. These Ion series handles can be built to have white or amber running lights to turn up the notch on any build. That, paired with our startup sequence, will turn your ride into a showstopper from the second these handles hit your truck. And of course, all Ion series handles will come with either a standard turn signal or premium sequential turn signal to ensure you stand out on the road. Don't let the night hold you back. Our innovative Ion series handles ensure your vehicle stands out brighter and stronger than the rest. You can choose from gloss black, chrome, or choose to have your handles paint matched to your factory paint color before they ever reach your doorstep. Wherever you stand on your build, take it to the next level with Boost Auto's Ion series illuminated door handles. A couple things to note before we get into the install. First, the procedure outlined in this video is going to be for 2022 and newer refreshed Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra 1500 and 2024 or newer Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra 2500 and 3500 trucks. If your vehicle is a different year range, head on over to boostauto.com for the latest in fitment and availability, and to purchase all we have to offer. Now, let's get into the install. We're going to make sure that our windows are rolled all the way up and that our seat is all the way back. The first thing we want to do is disconnect our negative battery terminal on the primary battery. If you have a secondary battery, remove that as well. Now, starting on the driver's side, we're going to start on the front door. We need to remove the door panel. So to do that, there's going to be 2 screws underneath this grab handle here, and then 2 at the bottom of the door, so we'll get started on removing those. To access the tool bolts under here, we just need to remove this rubber piece. So just take the trim tool, we'll pry back on this, it'll just pop right out. Then you remove these 2 bolts. Now you can just pry back on the door panel to unlatch it from the door and slide up, making sure you clear this door lock lever. And then we're going to slide up, directly up. You want to make sure you go high enough to clear that door lock lever. Notice how it stayed in place. And then we'll just drop it down a little bit so we can disconnect the connections on the back side of the door panel. On the door latch cable, you're just going to press down this white tab. Just pull it out, slide it up out of the slot. You can set that off to the side. And then on the front door, you'll have one main connector. This red lock has to just slide back, and then press down on this gray latch, and it swings out till your connector can remove, just like so. Now we need to peel back this door liner here. To do so, we're gonna have to remove this door grab handle mount. So these are just 2 7mm bolts. And then you can just, starting at one of the corners, peel back this door liner, making sure that it comes off in one piece. You don't want to rip it or anything like that. You just feed the door lock cable through. Now, if you have passive entry on your door handles or the button to unlock your doors on the handles, you'll have this white connector here. So we'll want to unplug that before we remove the handle. Start by just prying this down, and we'll just pop this out of its place. That way we can access the connector a little bit more. Then you want to locate this red locking tab here, and we're going to push that back with a flat blade screwdriver or a pick. And then up here at the top, we have this little tab we'll press down, and that'll release this connector. So now we're going to focus on removing our original OE door handle here. First, this little plug on the side, we just need to pop that off. So you can just go in with a trim tool of your finger, pop that off. It'll release this access bolt in there. Now, to remove this handle, first, you're going to go ahead and pull out on that handle. Then there's a little T20 Torx bit in here that we're going to loosen until this handle releases itself. So we'll show you here.
Just a quick note, make sure you're only using hand tools when removing and installing your door handles.
You'll see the handle and feel it release. And now that this is fully released, we're just gonna kind of swing it out. You wanna make sure that this end clears here. We have a harness, so that comes out with it. Set that off to the side. And then this right here, this will just pry straight out. You wiggle it a little bit and it'll come right out, just like so. If this rubber gasket comes off with your OE handles, just simply insert and reinstall. We'll be using that for our Boost Ion Series handles as well. Now on the driver's side rear door, we're gonna remove this door panel as well. There'll be 2 bolts underneath the rubber cover here and then 1 down at the bottom. We'll remove those now. Now you can just pry back on the door panel to unlatch it from the door and slide up, making sure you clear this door lock lever. On the rear, we'll start by removing the door lock cable. So just press the tab down, swing it out, and it'll slide up and out. And disconnect any connectors on your door. So we had 2 connectors on our rear door panel. You might have a different connector configuration, but regardless of the connectors, you want to make sure you pull the lock. So there's a red lock here, there's a white lock here. You want to make sure you pull that down and then depress the latch and pull the connector downward to unlatch it from the door panel. Now we want to remove the rear door liner. So again, we're going to remove this grab handle mount. It's just 2 bolts holding it in. And then you can start by just peeling back nicely the liner, making sure it doesn't tear or anything. Now we've got a handle here in your kit. So we're looking at the driver front handle, and how I can tell that is the cap is always going to face towards the rear, and the opening with the key lock cylinder is going to be the driver front. And then for this handle, this little plastic piece here is always going to face the front of the vehicle, and this BA, this logo right here, is always going to be right side up. Just a quick note, when installing the new handle, loosen the bolt until the metal tabs are aligned with the opening in the door. These metal tabs need to sit far enough over to allow the handle to latch into place. So now with your driver front handle, you got your 2 connectors, making sure they're routed through the guide here. We're going to feed those into the door, just like so. Make sure it feeds all the way in so you don't pinch anything. And then this little piece here, this is actually just going to line up and it'll guide right in. That'll angle over. And you'll see this start to line up. We'll just leave that there for a second. And then this rear piece here, we'll just make sure that the lock cylinder's lined up and it just press fits directly into the door. So once everything's lined up, press the rear end in first, and then you can press the front. You'll feel it clip in. So now it's in there solid. Now to get this handle to fully latch back into place, you're going to lightly put pressure from this side. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure, don't force it, but you want to lightly put pressure as we go ahead and tighten this bolt. So now we have this pressed in, it'll kind of click into place, and then it'll just start tightening this screw here, and it'll slowly pull this handle back in, and that should be good. Now if your truck has passive entry, you'll have a white connector that you fed through the door. If you don't have that, ignore this step, but we're going to plug that back into the connector that we originally unplugged it from. So that'll plug right in. Don't forget to close that lock. We'll just clip that back into place right here. Now that we have the handle mounted, you just pop this rubber rivet right back in.
Now, go ahead and repeat the same steps as the front door. Remember to only use hand tools when removing the door handles.
When installing the new handle, loosen the bolt until the metal tabs are aligned with the opening in the door. These metal tabs need to sit far enough over to allow the handle to latch into place.
Now go ahead and repeat the same steps as the front door. Remember to only use hand tools when installing the door handles. Here, we have our new handle in your kit. Your handle may have 1 or 2 connectors on it. We highly recommend optioning for this kit to add the lock and unlock button to the rear door handles. If you did option for our rear passive entry upgrade kit, you'll have a second connector for that as well. Reference a separate Boost auto video to wire the rear passive entry kit.
All right, since we're already in the door, for the wiring for the door handles, we're gonna have to remove this speaker. Since we're here, we don't necessarily need it removed yet. We're gonna do it anyway. So there's just 1 bolt at the top of the speaker. We're gonna remove that. Once that's removed, the speaker will stay there. There's just a clip holding it in place, so just pry back. The bottom latches in, so you pull up, And then you just need to unplug the connector on the bottom side here. So there's a little red tab. Pop that red lock back, press the tab down, and then you undo that. And then this just trim clip here, you just pop that, pry that right out. Now we'll remove the rear speaker with this 7mm bolt. Again, it just pops out, slides up, and then you disconnect the connector on the back side. You can now go ahead and repeat the same steps on the passenger side. So in your kit, you're going to have a couple different harnesses and your Ion series door handle module. So we're going to start by installing the module, but want to explain the harnesses a little bit as you have an input and an output side of the module. So the long 4-pin connector leads, this is your output side of the module, and then these connectors are your input side of the module. It's super important because we're going to start doing the input side of the module, then we'll tie the module into place, and then we run the output. So it's important to know that when we do the input side, you're cutting them to length. So for the harnesses themselves, there's 2 input harnesses. One's a 2-pin with a red and a black wire. The other one's a 4-pin connector with 2 red wires, one with a green tracer, one with a blue tracer, and then an orange wire. That's your input harnesses. We'll be working with those first, and then you'll have 4 output harnesses for all 4 door handles on your vehicle. That'll have 1 single black connector with a blue wire, a black wire, and a red and yellow wire. Just as an added note, if you did not opt for the running light functionality on your Ion series door handles, you won't need the orange wire, and you can just cut it and tape it out of the way. Now in the driver kick panel, we have our Ion series module for the handles, and we have our 2 input wires that we just talked about. We're going to start by plugging those in. So there's a 2-pin and a 4-pin connector. They're sized appropriately, you can't mess it up. And plug those right in and make sure they're pressed all the way forward. So we've got this hooked up. Now we have to find the location we're going to mount this ECU so we can cut these to the proper length. Now we've got our Ion series module here, our door handle module, with the inputs plugged in. So our inputs are going to tap up at the LCM up here. We need to identify where we're going to tie this module up just so we can cut the wires to the correct length. So for our purpose, we're going to tie it up back here. So you just want to make sure you have enough wire to route it. So we need about that much wire. When we cut to length, we'll keep that in mind. Now up at the lighting control module, we're going to start by locating the purple connector. We're going to be working with that connector for the 2-pin side, the power and ground side of our input module. So you want to pull back on the white lock, press the tab in, and just pull that connector down. So we're going to start by tapping the red wire from our input harness. That is going to go to pin 24 on this purple connector, so that'll be the bottom left-hand corner, this wire right here. Cut the tape back a little bit if needed, and then we're going to take a red T-tap from our kit and tap onto that wire. And squeeze until it clicks. On our Ion handle module, now locate this the small 2-pin connector. We need the red wire. That'll be our input for our power feed. So again, with this in mind, cut this to length with enough slack to tie it up. So we're going to cut that wire and then strip the end of the wire going towards the module. So with our red wire, we're going to take the fuse included in your kit. You want to make sure you use the fuse for this. Put that into the butt connector just like so. We'll crimp that down. It will heat shrink the butt connector down here. And then on the other side of this fuse, we're going to put a disconnect from our kit. So you can slide one of these disconnects right on there. We'll just need to crimp that into place as well. And then we can plug that right into the connector at our LCM. Then from there, you just plug that connector right back in. Next, we will remove the pink and blue connectors at the LCM. So blue will be all the way in the back here. I'll unplug that. And pink will be all the way up at the front. So pull the lock back and remove that as well.
Now if you option for running light, we'll be locating pin 1 on the pink connector.
Now on the pink connector, we're going to be locating pin 1, which will be the top left slot. So you can see the wire right here, the top left slot. Put a red T-tap on that wire from the kit. Now in the 4-pin connector on our Ion module, we're going to take the orange wire, measure that to length as well, and we'll cut that. And we'll strip the orange wire. Then take a disconnect from your kit, and again put that on the orange wire and crimp that down. From there, you can plug that disconnect back into the T-tap on pin 1 on this pink connector. just like so. Now on the same pin connector, we're going to locate pin 5, which will be directly below pin 1 we just tapped to. Pin 5 will be in the second row all the way on the left. We're going to tap a red T-tap to that wire. Now we'll take our red and blue wire from our ion module and we'll go to pin 5, the one we just tapped to here. So we're going to cut that wire to length, strip the end off, put a disconnect on and plug that in. Now we're done with this pin connector. We'll plug that back in so we can start working on the blue connector and we don't have it in the way. Now on the blue connector, we're going to want to locate pin 7. Pin 7 is going to be on the second row, one over from the right hand side. So we have pin 7 right here, you can see. Take a red T-tap from your kit and put that onto the wire. Then we'll take the red and green wire from our kit, measure that to length, cut it, put a disconnect on it and connect that back in. Then we can take and plug our blue connector back into our LCM. Now for the final wire, our black ground wire from that 2-pin connector, we need to remove a couple trim pieces here. So first we're going to remove this piece next to the seat. That'll pop right up. And then this just kick plate and door sill here. So that'll pop out and then we'll ground just behind this piece. Now you want to do the same thing with our module for the ground wire. So we're going to ground to this stud down here. You want to make sure you leave enough slack though to route that wire. So measure it. We'll cut it to length and then strip the end of that wire. Next, you'll take the ring terminal from your kit for this one, and we'll crimp that down. Next, we'll remove this ground nut here. With the nut removed, take that ring terminal, slide it on, and position it in the direction of the module, and we'll thread that back on. Tighten that back up. Alright guys, now we're going to move on to the next step of our process, which is wiring up the door handles from our Ion series wiring. So next we're going to be working with the longer 4-pin adapter harness with the open wire ends here, not the input side but the output side. So we'll start by plugging this into the module and then we'll start by running it to the driver door. Now we're going to release this door jamb boot. So next there's a little clip behind this boot on the top. Just press down with a flat-bladed screwdriver. That whole unit will clip out and then there's a connector underneath will disconnect.
Then, to remove the door jamb boot connector, pull out the red locking tab, then pull the white connector tab down and pull out on the connector.
And we'll pull this boot all the way into the door now that it's disconnected. So start by just pressing this into the door from that side. And we'll feed this whole door jamb boot and connector back into the door itself. So now we got our module here. We've already hooked up the input sides. We're going to identify the the output called left front. So that's going to be this side here. That's because we're working with the driver door first. So take your long harness we just looked at. We'll plug that in here. Make sure that clicks. Now we'll take a straightened out piece of metal. We need to route it through the door into the cab so we can tape our wires in here. So we're going to go through the speaker hole, then through where the door jamb boot was until it comes out inside here. You can reach your hand up and feel around for it if you're struggling a little bit. Once it's inside here, we'll go ahead and tape the harness to it. We'll pull it back through into the door. Now as you guys can see, we have the harness routed through the door, but it's not through the door jamb boot yet. So we need to start by actually routing through the cab side of the door jamb boot, the connector we unplugged from the door jamb. So we'll start with this side, run it through the door jamb boot and out through the other side here. So you just feed this on in. You want to make sure not to chafe any of the wires along the way, but just feed it through the door jamb boot, keeping it fairly straight throughout that process. It should feed right through. You see it comes out there. So we'll pull some slack. Now we don't want to pull all the slack through because we do still have to route this harness in the cab. So we're going to pull some of the slack, but not all the slack through. Now that we have our harness routed through, we're going to take the cab connector of the door jamb and we're going to feed that back up through the door jamb opening. Now keep in mind you have this other harness in here, so we're just kind of going to feed that back during the same process as we feed this connector through, just like that. And you have the door jamb boot back in the door jamb. When reinstalling the connector, make sure the wiring harness is run below it to ensure it's out of the way. Now reinstall the cab side of the door jamb boot, so the bottom side has a tab that latches in and then the top just press fits back in just like we removed it. So we'll slide the bottom in and then the top. Now going back to remember where you have this mounted, so you'll want to mock up the correct harness length, and if you have any extra slack, you'll just pull it into the door here since we'll be cutting this to length. And just the door side of the boot will pop back in as well. So just make sure that's correctly seated and there's this weather tight seal around the door jamb boot. All right, now once you have your harness in the door, your door jamb boot tied back up, we need to route this along the OEM harness. So you're gonna feel up by your door jamb boot and just kind of feel the harness as it runs back. So I'm running my hand along it here, but I can feel it runs just kind of down this door frame. You'll see it like right in here. It'll run back on up here. We're going to tie this harness up along that factory harness and then we'll regroup. Once you reach the window track with the harness, it is really important that you route the harness behind and around the track to avoid it getting snagged as the window goes up and down. So in your kit, you'll get these plastic retainers as well. So they'll have a 3M adhesive foam on the bottom side. You'll peel that off and stick that to the door. First, you need to clean off the door though to make sure there's no dust and debris. Then once you have that clip there, you'll route the wires through and then you just press it closed and it latches into place. That's how we're gonna retain the wire now that we have it routed on the OEM harness. We need to go a little bit farther than the factory harness does, so we're gonna use these clips for that. Now that we got the harness routed, we just need to hook up our pigtail. So we're going to start by cutting this to length, the harness we previously ran through the door. Just cut that to length there. Then we'll take our pigtail here. So you can see we have a black wire, a blue wire, and a red and yellow. Those will match the corresponding wires you ran through the door already. So this is the pigtail that'll come in your kit. We're going to strip the ends of each wire, match the colors, crimp them down, and then heat shrink those butt connectors. And then now on the 4-pin output connector of the door handle, we'll plug that onto the pigtail you just crimped on. Finally, tie up the remaining slack in the harness. Now to route to the rear door, we'll need to remove the kick plate here along with the B-pillar. Now to remove the B-pillar, we're going to start at the rear since we're already here. This weather stripping needs to just get pulled back on both the rear and the front side of the B-pillar. Then at the top, you'll just pry out a little bit on the top part of the B panel. Then at the bottom, we'll pry out as well, and this is the piece that we really need to pay attention to. Both the front and the back have trim clips. They're gonna pop out. The piece is gonna stay here, but it'll be enough for us to access the connector. We just need a little bit of space back there. Once the lower B panel is loose, we'll just kind of swing it up and out. This B panel will slide along here. Now, if you need a little bit more room, you can just pop this trim piece out here, and it can slide a lot further back if you need the extra space. Now we're going to release this door jamb boot. So next there's a little clip behind this boot on the top. Just press down with the flat blade screwdriver. That whole unit will clip out, and then there's a connector underneath with disconnect. Now to remove the connector, you're going to slide this white tab back and then press the latch on top, pull the connector out. Now on the door side of this door jamb boot, we're actually going to push this one out into the door jamb. That way it's easier to route. So you can take this loop and just pull on it, make it go this way, pop it out of place. Now this plastic routing guide on the back of your door jamb boot, that can just pop off. There's a tab here and a tab here. That'll just pry up and it kind of releases this. So just release those, it'll expose the wires in a better routing path for you. Now back up at our Ion Series module, we're looking for the left-hand rear output. We have another harness from our kit here. So that's this output right here. We're gonna plug that in. And again, throughout this process, keep in mind where you're mounting this module. That way you make sure you leave enough slack up under the dash. Now we gotta run this harness back to the B-pillar here where we're gonna pass into the door. We're just gonna route it along the floor of the cab here, just along the driver's side. Now that we got our harness back here and our straightened out metal piece, we're gonna tape that to it so we can route into the rear door. Now that we've got our wires taped, we're gonna route it up the B-pillar and out the connector opening here. So making sure we route it on the front side of the tensioner, we're gonna go ahead and route that up. And then we'll route it out the connector opening. Next, with the wire still taped to your straightened out metal piece, we're gonna route it through the rear boot. Again, coming out the opening we created with this rear wire guide. So we'll just kind of feed that through, making sure not to chafe any wires. And now the wires are through the boot, we'll feed it in through the door, out the speaker hole down here. Now we're gonna take our connector, plug the connector back in and push the lock forward, and then we'll clip our door jamb boot back into place. So now we'll route the harness through the rear door. We have the harness routed here. So as you're routing it on the OEM harness here, the factory harness, you wanna make sure you route it behind this silver piece and you're tying it up all the way along that factory harness to avoid any other components in the door. Now that we've got this routed around the window track, up by the connector, we're gonna cut this here, then strip the ends of it, and put our adapter on it, crimping it and heat shrinking it down. And then we'll take this connector you just added and plug it into the door handle. Now, replace the wire cover on the inside of the door jamb boot, then the door side of the boot itself. All right, now that we have our driver's side doors all set up, handles installed, wires routed, everything like that, we're gonna turn our focus to the passenger side. The procedure for the doors on the passenger side is exactly the same, but first we need to get the harnesses over there. So back at our Ion Series module here, we have the remaining two connectors, which are for the passenger side, and you have two remaining harnesses in your kit. You wanna make sure that you can tell the difference between the two harnesses once they're on the passenger side. So on one of the two harnesses, we're just gonna put a little bit of tape on the end, that way we know the difference, and then on the other harness, we're gonna leave it blank. This will help us, once we're on the passenger side, know which one's front, which one's rear. So you wanna pay attention to which plug you plug the the taped end of the harness into, because if we plug this into passenger front, we wanna make sure we run that to that front door. Then take the connector end of the two harnesses and plug them into your module. Then we're gonna take our straightened out metal piece with our wires taped to it, route it on over to the passenger side. So just find an opening and route that through. All right, now that we have the wires on the passenger side, we'll untape them from the harness and repeat the process we did on the driver's side on the passenger side of the vehicle, removing the same trim pieces and following the same steps. Now that we've got all the harnesses routed, we can start with reassembly of the vehicle. So we're gonna start with the B-pillar here. Same concept as before, just slide the seat belt buckle through and then we'll snap it in. Then we'll snap on the rear door sill. Then we'll take our rear speaker. We'll start with reassembling the rear door with that. First, plug it back in, push the latch in, and then clip it back in place. Then we'll take our rear door liner and we're gonna feed the door lock cable back through the opening it was originally in. So just feed that through, and then we can just line up the adhesive with where it was originally, press it back into place. Then we'll put the rear door grab screws and mount back in. Now we're going to plug any connectors back in on our door panel. Now we'll reinstall the rear door panel, making sure that you lift up and clear this rear door lock lever. Now we'll reinstall the 2 screws up here, 1 screw down here, and the door grab cover. Now to the front door, we're going to start with the speaker. Now we'll install the door liner. So again, feed the door handle cable through here, and then we'll just line it up. Simply press fit this back into place. Now to reinstall the door panel, we're going to start by plugging the connector in. Now we'll reinstall the door panel, making sure we clear the door lock lever. Now before we put on our last trim piece here, we need to tie the harnesses up and out of the way. Then we'll take our door sill trim piece and reinstall that, sliding it forward and then down. And finally, we'll reinstall the piece by the seat. Finally, we'll reconnect our negative battery terminal. Alright guys, now that we have all of our install done, our Ion series door handles are now lighting up better than ever. Check it out, boostauto.com. That's where you can find a set for your truck. Catch you in the next one.
The products shown in this video and so much more can be purchased on our website at boostauto.com. We're proud to offer a wide variety of products, parts, and accessories for your truck or SUV that will take your build to the next level. To watch videos like this one and to find out about our newest innovative products for your vehicle, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all for now. We'll catch you on the next one.